Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk to you about my preliminary thoughts and feelings for Miss America Chavez. So I want to show you guys just how she plays with, wow, some different content and some gameplay footage, and then I'll talk specifically about her different skills and how you can approach your initial development of this character, because I think she has quite a lot of room for growth. I think the best and quickest comparison of America Chavez to an existing character would be to Titania. She's got the self-buffing leadership, she's got the great long iframe on the 5th skill, and she's got the immunity on the 3rd skill. Unlike Titania, I think that Miss America has more potential to be at the top or closer to the top of the meta than Titania ever did. I think both characters shine in something like Shadowlands, so that does remain the same, and I do think that Titania has maybe a little bit more survivability at tier 1 than Miss America, but they both need you to build them damage oriented, given the fact that they don't deal that much damage out of the gate. Although Titania does deal more damage because of her leadership being 50%, whereas Miss America's is only 24%. But you can see here that with my build, which is almost purely offensively, she does a pretty decent job at tier 1. Note that there is a penalty for dodge at tier 1 against these world bosses, so that's why I'm hitting so few, so infrequently now, especially in the 3rd stage for Corvus. Her 3rd skill with the immunity has a really short cooldown, so you can almost cast it, immediately after her immunity expires, because it's 4.5 seconds for the skill and it's 3 seconds of immunity with the skill. So if you wanted to just do 3 and 5, by all means you can do that. Keep in mind that with her 5th skill there is a wind up to getting into the iframe, much like Valkyrie's 5th skill. If you just rely on her 5th skill to not take damage, you can be surprised, because she does need a long time, about a second, before her iframe on her 5th skill kicks in. But once it kicks in, it's a long iframe, great AoE damage, good damage in general, and that meteor at the end, which is very reminiscent of Scarlet Witch's meteor, also has a stun on it. So with a stun on her 2nd skill and her 5th skill and the immunity, she becomes a pretty aggressive character. Her 4th skill has an iframe in the 2nd half. I don't like this skill very much. I think that the first part of it is good for movement of enemies during Shadowland, but I think the second part of the skill is kind of lame because it moves her around. Her 1st skill is really kind of ordinary. There's some iframes in between, but because she moves around so much and because the iframes are inconsistent, it's a very dangerous skill to use. I would not recommend using that 1st skill much. I would cancel the 4th skill after that initial kind of jump spin kick is finished. That is where she gets the damage from her 4th skill. So the second half of the 4th skill, really you don't need to do. Be careful, because there will be certain instances, I have noticed playing against Corvus, where your 3rd skill will go on cooldown when the enemy iframes like that, but you don't actually get the 3rd skill immunity. So in that situation, I don't know why it is. I think it has to do with a targeting issue, but her 3rd skill will go on cooldown, but you won't have the immunity to protect yourself. So make sure you always have a target and that they're not going into an iframe when you cast that 3rd skill. I think it might be tied to her hit. I think she has to actually make contact with the enemy. Whether she needs to do damage is yet to be seen. I doubt she needs to do damage, because that would be broken. But you can see with a fully offensive build that her damage is decent at tier 1. It's definitely the weakest part of her kit. I think her survivability is great even at tier 1, but you definitely do need to build her offensively. I went full crit. Wow, I'm about to die here. I went full crit and damage proc with her obelisk to complement her damage. You can also cancel the 5th skill just a little bit early, because at the end she comes out of it and she just stands there, so you can cancel the 5th skill a little bit earlier to go back into the 3rd skill for ultimate protection, very much like Titania. But otherwise, you can mix in her 4th skill in Shadowland, her 2nd skill in Shadowland, as you will see, to make use of both those movement skills and the stun. As far as her skills go, you don't need to level up any of these. I did level up shoulder charge to see if it would get better, but it gives you a 100% chance for immunity at level 1, so there's really no need to pump up any of these skills. In terms of her obelisk, I will have a lot of people asking me why I gave her guard break immunity if I plan to tier 2 her. Her tier 2 passive does have super armor, but I've been hearing a lot lately about differences between super armor and guard break immunity, so I wanted to test them both in tandem to see if I could notice a larger change or a larger effect of the guard break immunity, which is supposed to stop your skills from getting cancelled, a la Quicksilver's Vortex and other characters kind of knocking around skills, like Sharon Rogers' 5th skill with that giant black kind of effect. So that's why I went with both of those. I'm probably going to end up having to switch the obelisk out for something that doesn't have guard break immunity, but for now I think that this one will serve my purposes and testing well. I do still very much want to tier 2 this character. I'm just building up her bios to get to 150 to do it naturally because I don't want to waste a ticket, but I do think that an offensive obelisk is the best way to go with her. She doesn't need the additional defenses. She could get something like web immunity if you wanted to give her something, because I think at tier 2 especially, with that 50% decreased physical damage received, she becomes very, very good against speed type characters. And as we know, the spiders are the most popular speed type characters, especially in things like Timeline and Alliance Conquest. And because their individual hits don't do that much damage, that 50% reduction really crushes their damage overall, and it crushes their DPS, and it might make her a formidable counter to even the likes of 2099 and Spider-Man. I think probably the most tech-oriented obelisk for Miss America would be either a Transcendence CTP that has the ignore, dodge, and the all attack for the spiders, or if you could specifically roll, you know, ignore, dodge, web immunity, and a damage proc. That would probably be the best for her, or something like max HP. Switch one of them around, but that might be the best possible option for her. But she also shines a lot in Shadowland, and that was the second piece of gameplay that I wanted to show you guys. I think even at tier 1 with 15 gears with no obelisk, she could probably, like Titania, do close to the first 10 stages, as long as you can pair her up in, you know, either a hero stage, a female stage, or a speed stage. I think she'd be particularly good against the speed rumble. You do still have to watch for Gamora's bleed, but you'll see with her plethora of AoEs and stuns that it becomes very easy to handle multiple opponents. So of course you want to open with her 3rd skill, but check out the stun on her 2nd skill. I actually stunned both of them at the range that they were at, so they don't even need to be that close to get the stun in again and again and again. It's really, really good, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Her 4th skill, as I've spoken about before, has a push mechanic, so if I wanted to get Winter Soldier closer to Hawkeye, I can use the 4th skill, but I really just want it for that part. I really don't need it otherwise, so I would prefer to just cancel it out after that. But you get the stun in, use the, well, one Spidey stops webbing me. You use the 4th skill, and you just go right about your business, push them back together again, use the stun again, and you can literally just rotate between 2, 3, and 4 if you really wanted to. I just stunned Spidey again because her skills are just on such a short cooldown, and they're just so impactful. Every single one of her skills has, at least not every single one, but most of her skills have such a large impact individually that it makes her a very, very good Shadowland character. I don't like her 1st skill in general. I think her 4th skill for the 2nd half is pretty bad, but 2, 3, and 5 are absolutely fantastic. Her 2nd skill is a 3-second stun on a 3.5-second cooldown, so you can almost perpetually stun them with just one skill. Then her 3rd skill gives her 3 seconds of immunity on a 4.5-second cooldown. So just throw in a 1.5 seconds of kiting, or a 1.5 seconds of a stun, or a 1.5 seconds of an iframe from her 5th skill, and you can just negate any damage that she takes. Some possible skill rotations that you could use her in, as I said before, in something like Shadowland, you could literally just do 2 and 3. That's how good she is in Shadowland. You could do just 3 and 5 if you needed more damage and more AoE. You could definitely want to cancel the 5th skill towards the end, right before she lands from the meteor. The stun is nice, but getting hit out of the 5th skill could be the difference between life and death, so just ignore the stun and go into the 3rd skill. You could do the 2nd skill and cancel it immediately into the 5th skill if you need that stun, because they're both 3 seconds. but she has a lot of versatility with her rotations. She has really short cooldowns. That's another thing that's so good about this character. There's always a skill ready for you to use, and I can't wait to see how much better she gets with her tier 2 passive, especially that decreased physical damage reduction, because a speed type or a combat type hero who could potentially counter some of the speed meta that we have kind of teetering at the top, you know, running around in circles, is a breath of fresh air. Not to mention the fact that in closing, she's one of the only good speed female type, or sorry, combat female types. We have Sif, who's like so-so. Titania and Valkyrie are good, but otherwise all of the other combat female characters are just lackluster. So it's really nice to get a tanky female character who's combat and who actually does the job well. Let me know what you guys think of Miss America, how you've built her, and what you think of her so far. If you have more information or more first-hand accounts of this guard break, super armor shenanigan, interplay, and kind of interaction with guard breaking skills like the ones I mentioned, let me know in the comments below. Subscribe if you want to support me and you enjoy the content. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.